Stapel here. During the last couple of weeks, I started to doubt my previous work on this channel. And I started to realize that I was wrong on a few things. I agree with most of the things I did before, but on a few things I realized I was wrong. It's kind of embarrassing, but, well, you have to admit when you are wrong, and, well, there you go. You oftentimes hear that the wage gap is a myth, or that it is a lie, or that it does not exist, or, well, maybe it is explainable, or whatever. It is explainable. That does not mean it is not there. There is a wage gap, but it is explainable. Different life choices, different careers, different jobs, and so on. I've said that all myself before. But just because it is explainable does not mean it is not due to discrimination. For example, leadership positions. Men tend to work more often in leadership positions than women. And leadership positions, of course, pay a lot more than normal positions. This is part of the explanation for the gender wage gap. So, if you do not hire women because of discrimination in leadership positions, of course, then you will get this discrepancy. Men tend to work more in leadership positions, but what if they are there because there was discrimination against women? I fully acknowledge that men tend to like more the hierarchy thing and the competition for higher jobs and so on. That's a huge part, of course, to that thing. But just because we can explain by, well, they work more in leadership positions, doesn't mean that women, that getting women and men in those leadership positions has nothing to do with discrimination. Or another example would be different job choices. There is this stereotype of women who are not as capable in STEM fields as men. The stereotype exists. And what if many women think, well, all those people have this stereotype, therefore I will not even try to get there. I choose another field that has not such a bias against me. So this contributes to the gender wage gap. This perceived discrimination against women. But there's also another part that is contributing to the gender wage gap, and that is the exact opposite for men. What the exact opposite? It's the same thing for men. I have two friends that I will state as an example. One friend always wanted to become a kindergarten teacher, and the other one wanted to be a teacher for 6 to 10 year olds, the primary school with it, I think. The kindergarten teacher couldn't get a job for his training because parents, especially mothers, rallied against it. They didn't want to have a man in the kindergarten teaching their kids. They didn't want it, and so he got no training, and he didn't have he had no other choice than choosing another field. And he chose, of course, a higher paying field. And the other one, the teacher for primary school or elementary school, 6 to 10 year olds, he started his training. He studied the job, and during this job he got asked so often if he is not afraid that he will get accused of being a pedophile, and what he will do to ensure that he is not accused and whatever, that he chose during his study during university to change his field. So he became a teacher for 10 to 20 year olds. But he was constantly asked by everyone around him, including me, that if he is not afraid about being called a pedophile for whatever reason. And interestingly, this holds men back for choosing those lower paying jobs, kindergarten teacher, or the stuff. It prevents them from, because they don't want to get their lives shredded. Many feminists think that men and women are created, quote unquote, equal. I do not think so. The evidence is so overwhelming that this is wrong. I cannot take this position. Those feminists often think that the difference in outcome are therefore due to discrimination, because they are equal in every way. This is obviously false. Men and women are different, and in a system that treats them equally, we can expect a different outcome, working as intended, as we might say. So if a man and a woman are equally capable and equally qualified, they should have the same job perspective. But men and women have significant differences, especially in the way that men tend to want to be on top of the hierarchy and are more competitive. But the system rewards competitiveness and the willing to be on top. Therefore, it caters more to men than to women. It treats everyone equal, but men have advantages. Wouldn't it be just to equalize this with, for example, a quota? Also, if you bring people from different backgrounds and life experience into a group, you get a diversity of ideas how to solve problems. Each and everyone developed, due to their upbringing, different ways in solving problems. This results in more outcome. Gender mixed teams are more efficient than non-mixed. This is, even in a capitalist society, a reason why we need more women in top positions. So if this is the case, why aren't the men on top promoting more women? Maybe it is because of the own group bias. And yes, I know that men work the dirty jobs, are willing to sacrifice their health and lives for women, even for women they do not know. But I've also seen men who prefer men over women when something needs to be done. And in the workforce, something needs to be done. Wouldn't a quota make up to this? Let's move away from the workforce to social interactions. Slutshaming. This is something I have argued before, and I know that it is something women do more often than men, and I know that evolutionary reasons exist why we slut shame. In short, fucking around shows bad judgment on the women's part when it comes to reproduction. But just because women do it more often than men, and just because there is an evolutionary reason, does not make it right. In this day and age, we don't need it anymore. We do not need to slut shame. I do not have the approach to shame the people who do the slut shaming and call them a bad person for doing so, as many feminists do. But I do take the approach to explain why this feeling exists and why it is not needed anymore. I think that gives the people who slut shame explanation for their behavior and why it is wrong. And because it does not attack their character, they are more likely to overthink their behavior. But if you attack, they are more likely to go into a defense mode and do not listen to what you actually have to say. Nevertheless, I do think that slut shaming is wrong and we should stop it. No means no. If someone, regardless of their gender, does say that they do not want sex, sex should not take place. Otherwise, it should be considered rape. I know that this is hard to prove, one way or the other, but if there is proof, that should be enough. Abortion. abortion is a very different and difficult topic for me. I took the stance that when one of the parents wants a child and the other does not want it, the child should be born. They should both have the right to say, I don't want to be responsible for the child, either financially or in the upbringing. The man or the woman, they should have both the right. But if one of the parents decides, I want to have that child, the child should be born. That would mean if the woman does not want the child and the man does, she has to remain pregnant and give birth to that child she does not want. And I justified it with the life of that baby is more elegant than, or more valuable than the body of the woman. And then my sister came along and said, well, that sounds good on the surface, because, well, you saved the life of that child, but do you believe that someone should force you to donate blood if someone else needs exactly your blood group? And I said no, and she said, do you see? Your body integrity, even a needle in your arm, is more valuable to you than the life of someone else. Why should we force a potential mother to carry something that is much more dangerous to her body and to her life, just because to save one other life that is in the first months even not really developed? To conclude this, all these problems I've talked about, that is the wage gap, which exists but is explainable, but that doesn't mean that it is not due to discrimination. We should make sure that there is no discrimination because of gender. The second thing was that the system rewards competitiveness and all that stuff. It should also reward networking, social skills, and so on. It becomes more necessary. It becomes more in our world today, but we should do more about that. Then there is a slut-shaming. That's definitely not needed anymore. No means no, or this, the abortion rights, and while feminists are right to point out that this is a problem, oftentimes they have wrong conclusions and wrong basis why this is a problem, or they are often not nuanced enough. But when you argue like this, I think you can fairly say that they are right, that this is a problem, and that this problem should be solved, and that the end goal is correct. And, well, therefore, I think I can call myself a feminist.